Howdy folks, and we're continuing our trip down memory lane today. Cricket and I have come through Hamlet, North Carolina, which is where my grandfather lived when I was a little boy. And one of the things about Hamlet that's absolutely amazing is when you get here, Baptist churches in this town are like mushrooms after a bad rain. They're just everywhere. But what's even more intriguing is that there seems to be an extremely high concentration of Free Will Baptist churches here. As you can see, we're at the Shining Light Free Will Baptist Church, hallelujah, in Hamlet, North Carolina. And there's a couple of things that immediately come to mind every time I pass a Free Will Baptist church. The first is that they've nearly preached and taught themselves into extinction. The Free Will Baptist movement being very nearly overtaken by the fundamentalism of the 40s has stopped engaging culture at any level to such an extent that they're basically preaching to themselves now, which in my mind at least proves that it's not really a question of whether or not you're going to engage culture, but which culture you're going to engage in at what era. For instance, the issues that they are still talking and preaching about within the Free Will Baptist churches are issues that were huge in 1940 and 50. So obviously in 1940 and 50 the Free Will Baptists were engaging culture and they were trying to speak into the world that was around them. But they've since sort of fossilized and they've stopped that at all, and the reason being is that we don't want to sell out to culture or somehow have culture seep into our church and they have a bunker mentality. Well, it's too late for that. 1940s and 50s culture is still being seeped into their church even right now. The other thing that I find so intriguing about the Free Will Baptists is that I think that they, well, two things really. They disprove Ergen Kainer's assertion that Baptist is somehow a third or via media middle way between Arminianism and Calvinism. If you've heard his famous sermon at Liberty University, Why I'm Predestined Not to Be a 5-Point Calvinist, one of the things that he points out is that people ask him if he's a Calvinist, and he says, well, no. I said, oh, then you're an Arminian. He says, no. I said, well, what are you? Well, I'm Baptist. Well, that's not exactly true historically. As you can see, this is a Free Will Baptist church. They're directly descended from the General Baptists that were so prevalent in England, particularly in the 16th and 17th centuries. For instance, you would also have on the other side of the coin the Reformed Baptist denomination that's growing so much right now that are directly descended from the Calvinist or particular Baptist churches that were also very prevalent in England, maybe the most well-known of which was the Metropolitan Tabernacle that was founded by Charles Spurgeon, and the New Park Street Tabernacle where John Gill, whose books on theology were extremely widely read in his era. That stream of Calvinist Baptist was very common. The other thing that I find so intriguing about the Free Will Baptist churches is the fact that they're not growing at all. And I think that that has a lot to do with the fact that they are evidence that perhaps all of the arguments that we've heard about Calvinism killing evangelism are wrong. If you look right now at the churches that are just exploding in numbers, they're all Calvinist, or at least they have Calvinistic roots at the very bare minimum. Acts 29 Church Planting Network, the Village Church, where Matt Chandler is the pastor, Mars Hill Church in Seattle, where Pastor Mark Driscoll, known to some of you as the Antichrist, is the pastor. You also look at organizations like Sovereign Grace Ministries with C.J. Mahaney. These guys are all full-on 5-point Calvinists. Yet the argument that you hear again and again, particularly in the Southern Baptist Convention, is that Calvinism is the enemy of evangelism. Really, that's intriguing, because I don't understand how an Arminian can continue to evangelize, or why they would, when they continue to fail, when that person continues to reject Christ. And then it suddenly turns back on their failure to close the sale. You didn't present Jesus clearly enough, or you didn't present him compellingly enough. Well, no, perhaps it's that we Calvinists have been right all the wrong, and that men are dead in sin, and that there is an external call that goes out to men that must be accompanied by an internal call if we're to see them become regenerate. In the same way that Christ's command, Lazarus come forth, created life in Lazarus and made it possible for him to come forth. We don't think that there's any real difference between those two things. So, thanks for joining us on our little trip down memory lane. We hope you've enjoyed it. And the next time someone tells you that Calvinism kills evangelism, maybe you might want to refer them to the Shining Light Free Will Baptist Church, where I'm sure that their Sunday attendance is in the thousands, as you can see by their inordinately large chapel. Guys, have a great, great day.